So, I'm a magician, and magicians aren't always the first choice of speaker at an intellectual, educational event such as this, but on the other hand, I suppose that in this current world of disinformation and fake news, someone who makes their living out of lies and confusion is what we call relevant. I'm going to talk today actually about two magical, mystical subjects, charisma and telepathy. Now, telepathy is, of course, the psychic ability where one mind communicates directly to another. Charisma is not something that we necessarily associate with magic, but in the past they certainly did. And that's why words and phrases from the world of witchcraft have crept into the language that we use when we talk about charismatic communication. Words such as bewitching, enchanting, spellbinding, charming. The word charm refers, of course, to a magic spell or incantation. But before we get into all that, I'd like to show you a trick. All right, it's my way of making friends, I suppose. I'm going to show you a lovely, very popular trick with this napkin. You'll love this one, sir. To be honest, considering the price of alcohol here in Norway, I think this trick will be the most popular thing ever done here at all. Let me see. Thank you. There is, of course, a problem with this trick, and that is when people start placing orders, you know. Do you do a champagne? I'll be honest with you. There's a limit to what you can fit down your trousers before it looks a little odd. I can't do another bottle, but I do have a kind of backup trick, and I'll quickly show you now. If I place the napkin on my hand again, I'll pull my sleeve up, because some people think that I cheat. I never cheat. Thank you very much. Now, for me, magic was never about the tricks. It was about connecting with people. It was the idea of the magician that inspired me, somebody who could engage and fascinate and entertain, somebody with charisma. Olivia Fox-Carbane, the author of The Charisma Myth, writes about charisma as something which is a combination of power and presence and warmth, that in some people gives them this magnetic quality that has us hanging on every word that they say. And from a young age, that was the way I saw the role of a magician. So rather than just practicing tricks, I would work on my persona and my presentation. And to my surprise, it was there in my communication that I found techniques that were more deceptive than any sleight of hand or smoke and mirrors. Because great magic is about much more than just creating an illusion for the eyes. It's about a more rounded manipulation of the audience's perception. When I was 11 years old, all of my brothers and sisters, and there are many of them, but that's another story, all of my brothers and sisters were what we call in English double-jointed, so they could bend the thumb back until it touched the arm, or roll the tongue, or do the splits. So my brother could bend his finger back so it lay across the back of his hand. I could clearly see, of course, I understood that if I was to have any sense of self-worth, I needed a disgusting party trick of my own. So I went to work to discover one, and as luck would have it, I came up with several. And you have the dubious pleasure of witnessing them now. I do apologize in advance. They came out of the mind, as I say, of an 11-year-old boy, and they are disgusting. But bear with me, there is a point to this. Okay, it starts with an arm. Now, everybody can do this, of course. But when I grab my hand here and pull very hard and ignore the pain, then I can bring it all the way around to here. The next phase, I'm afraid, I need you to join in with this to a certain extent for this to work at all. So please humor me and place your arm on your side like this, please. Thank you so much. Do appreciate it. And then what you're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is point your elbow forwards. And not like that, that's cheating, right? We want 90 degrees here, that's it. And that's the starting position. We are now going to move the elbow round so it touches the shoulder. And the finale, ladies and gentlemen, was where I moved my arm this far. Well, everyone does that. That wasn't the finale. But if I undo the elbow, I hate this trick too. Now, please just take a moment to get a mental image of that, because it's important to my talk. And we'll move on. Thank you. The great thinker, author, and professor of neurology, Oliver Sacks, writes that every act of perception is to some degree an act of creation, and every act of memory is to some degree an act of imagination. In other words, our creative processes are involved when we're making sense of the world around us. Our senses pick up certain things. We combine that with our expectations and our experience, and we create our reality. Now, the reality you created just now was, of course, one where my arm twisted around 360 degrees. I popped my shoulder out of joint and moved my elbow round to touch my opposite shoulder, something which you verified was impossible. And then my arm hyperextended and dangled in front of you at a horribly unnatural angle, in front of your very eyes. And yet the amazing thing is that none of that actually happened. You made it up. I was hardly involved here. There was hardly any trickery at all. In fact, I kid you not, I connected with you. I had you hanging on my every word. I guided your minds through the experience. I had you feeling that this wasn't a trick. This was something that was real. And you stopped being skeptical, and your minds then began to create the illusions for me. Thank you very much. And you saw what I wanted you to see rather than what actually happened. And looking around the room, I see some of you beginning to think, now, actually, tell you what, I would like to see those broken arms again, when you didn't think you were going to think that. So let me just go through this again, but this time we're going to cut out the story about my family being double-jointed and all the oohs and ahs and ums, and this is going to be horrible. And I'll just show you my hand. Well, I did this, and that was fine. And then you all freaked out when I did this, which was odd. And then you remember, no doubt, that my hand moved all the way around to the top. Right? Well, if you'd been a little skeptical, you would have no doubt noticed that as I pulled my arm quite hard, but I turned my body around more than my arm, and then let go and just waved a little there to make it look like it span around 3 or 4 times on the way back. I thought that was a nice touch. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the broken arm. That was quite disgusting. This arm here, of course, actually, thinking about it, 2 broken arms. This process, this technique of connecting with you and influencing your perception as we go through a routine, it's all about charisma. I can enhance a magic trick, I can create an illusion through this technique. So charisma for me is not just about making a magic show smooth. At its best, charisma is a mind-controlling superpower. And it's not hard to imagine that this is a very attractive skill to learn in many walks of life. So the question is, how do I learn that? And can I learn that? Or is it, as the dictionary would have us believe, is charisma a personality trait that we're born with? I was 15 years old when I started to call myself a magician. And I'd been through a difficult time. I was an outsider. I was being bullied. I'd been hospitalized by bullies on more than one occasion. I was nervous. I was scared. I was confused. My tutors said that I was incapable of communicating with adults. If you'd seen me then and then you saw me now, whatever you think of my performance so far, you would agree that it is possible to develop your charisma. For me, that was a very conscious process, and I tried many things, and I failed miserably, spectacularly, embarrassingly on numerous occasions. But for the sake of your time and my dignity, I'm going to hop over those experiences and tell you something that worked. And this is where we come to telepathy. Bear with me, because the fact is that our tone of voice, our choice of words, our body language, all the way down to our micro expressions, they signal automatically and truthfully what's going on inside us. And the people around us, they sense that. They sense what we're thinking. Telepathy, if you will. Now, of course, they don't get the words, but they get a feeling. And that feeling can actually be a very powerful way of communicating. Why? Because if I tell you something, then you question it. But if you get a feeling about something, that is your truth. A good example of this is just now when I was doing the arm tricks. It was imperative to creating that illusion that you experienced the arm tricks as something that wasn't a trick. It was real, even though you knew I was a magician. How do I go about convincing you of that? Well, I don't try to be convincing. I just believe it as I am going through the routine. And I trust that you will pick up on that belief telepathically. Charisma works along the same lines. It's a feeling that you have about me. And when I was trying to be charismatic early on and failing, people were sensing there was something that wasn't quite right. But when I stopped worrying about that and changed the way that I was thinking, that I was charismatic. People could sense it. And that, if you like, is the foundation that I can build my charisma on. Then we get, of course, the million-dollar question. If the way I'm thinking can make me charismatic, what should I think in order to be charismatic? And I'll give you a huge tip. We stop thinking about ourselves, about my insecurities, and about how great I am. Neither is an attractive thought to be transmitting telepathically. So what I do is I stop. Before I go onto a big stage or into an important meeting, I stop for a moment and I think about my audience, you. And I think, I like you. I think you're going to like me. I've got something great to show you, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you, sharing with you, laughing with you. And this, I'm fully focused on this moment because you matter. Charisma is power, presence, and warmth, also in terms of our mindset. And in this moment on the stage, I gain my warmth from the fact that I care. I care about what I'm saying, and I care about you. I get my presence from the fact that I'm fully invested in this moment because you matter. And I get my power from the fact that I am confident that I have something of value. I believe that I have something of value to share. So I wish to spread this idea that rather than trying to influence one another through being loud and convincing and impressive, we should believe in the magic of telepathic charisma, connecting, caring, and sharing. Thank you for listening.